Hey, Scott Spears here tonight with another edition of the Spears Report. Sorry if I look terrible or sound terrible. I'm in the midst of some kind of disease. I don't know what it is. We'll hope I pull through, but if I don't, you'll have this little video log to remember me by, but I don't think you're done with me yet. I'm going to change paces here in the video logs because I kind of want to talk about some experiences I've had. Not so much, ranting and raving as I have done. Just with celebrities, some local, some national, some situations I've been in doing the charity show or doing broadcasting. And the first one tonight I'm going to talk about because you got to open big. I want to talk about Jimmy Crum. Now, most people remember Jimmy Crum. He was the WCMH sportscaster for 40, 50 years. I remember him well from my childhood, famous for wearing the plaid jackets. Well, anytime anybody's asked me about Jimmy Crum in the last 5, 10 years now, I guess it's been close to, I said I really don't care for the guy, but I wouldn't tell anybody why I don't care for the guy. Well, hey, if you tuned into this video log, you're going to know why I don't care for Jimmy Crum. He's passed away now. It's been 2 or 3 years. I feel I'm okay to tell this story. Here's what happened. I was doing a charity event for the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation back in 2004, I believe it was. And we invited Jimmy Crum to that event, and he very graciously came to that event. And it was in December, and the turnout was not great. I'll be the first to admit it. The turnout was not wonderful, but Jimmy was okay, I thought, during the trip. We talked about having him back and things we could fix to make it better, and went out to dinner with him that night twice and picked up his tab both times, and it seemed fine, and he left and went home, and so have you. So about 6 months later, I was planning the next charity show, and I had given Jimmy a call, letting him know that we were going to have Doug Adair and Angela Pace at this next charity show, and would love to have him come back and hopefully remedy some of the problems that we had had in the previous charity show, and again for Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. And if people have been to my charity shows recently, they know we've remedied those problems. But in any event, I called Jimmy, left him a message, told him we had Angela Pace, Doug Adair, people he'd worked with before, told him the date of the show, and said if he could make it, that'd be great. Would even be glad to send him some transportation, because at that time I knew he wasn't doing too much driving. So on and so forth. Certainly not 45 minutes. Well, a couple days passed, didn't get a hold of him, left the message, and I'll never forget this. I was laying on the couch on a Saturday morning, early Saturday morning, and the phone rings. It's like 8:30 Saturday morning. Phone rings. I didn't roll over to pick it up. I had to be at work later on that day. Really didn't think too much of it. I think I was working at a shoe store then and going to college. Long before ever getting in at broadcasting, doing any kind of broadcasting. And the answering machine picks it up. Hey, it's Scott. Leave a message after the beep. And this voice comes on. And understand, this is exactly what it sounded like. Because I'm awake now. The phone's woken me up. So now I'm hearing this message as I'm laying in bed, 8:30 on a Saturday morning. Scott, this is Jimmy Crum. I just wanted to let you know that I've placed a call to Doug Adair, and I've placed a call to Angela Pace, and told them not to come to your show. Scott, when you had me there last December, you tortured me. You embarrassed me, and you tortured me. You gave me an award, and it was cracked. I've never been so tortured in my life. Somebody should run you out of the town of Marion. Now, and he ended the message, hand to God, he said, if you have any messages, call me back. After raking somebody like that, I would think you wouldn't leave your number to call back. It was kind of made his point. First I'd heard of it, though, 6 months later, and the first time he'd brought it up. Now, I will say this. The award was not cracked. I don't know how you crack an award. Not really sure what he was talking about there. And number two, yes, I remember the line. I came there and I looked out in that audience and I only saw 10 people, Scott. I was tortured. Now, I don't know if there was 10 people there or not. I'm sure there were more than 10 people in the auditorium that night. But the question begs, if Jimmy Crum is your main draw, and you can't draw more than 10 people, maybe the problem does not lie with me. Maybe the problem lies with Jimmy Crum. I tried to apologize to Jimmy many times because I figure when you invite somebody to your house, which I did for my charity event, and they have a rotten time, you want to try to make that better, fix it in some way, and Jimmy just would not have that. Jimmy held that grudge from 2004 until the day he died. He did not want anything to do with me. He thought I was just a horrible, horrible person. And I always felt bad about that because I liked Jimmy Crum, and I thought his Tell It Like It Is style was kind of interesting. But when you're doing a charity show that you're not taking any money from, we've done 14 of them now, and you don't benefit in any way except for giving the money to charity. And Jimmy Crum should have known that better than anybody for all his work at Recreation Unlimited, which I certainly applaud. But you take what you can get. When the charity doesn't do well, you're upset, but you don't give up. You come back and you do it again. And now that we're at 14 and have raised, a little bit of money for charities, American Cancer Society, Juvenile Diabetes Foundation, I certainly don't think I should be run out of the town of Marion, since I was here longer than Jimmy Crum ever was. So, that answers the question. Why don't you like Jimmy Crum? Well, that's why I don't like Jimmy Crum. Once again, I'm sure a lot of people liked him, but that's how he was to me. And a little sidebar to this, so I'm just not sure that I'm the only person he disliked. I'm not going to say the name of the person, but I was told later that right after the show, before anything had happened, somebody came up and just wanted to see how Jimmy Crum was and said, Jimmy, how you doing? And his reply was, my wife's dead and I've got cancer. How do you think I'm doing? So Jimmy might have been in a bad mood when he got there. But the fact that he never let that grudge die was always upsetting to me, and I wish we could have patched it up before he passed away, but we really never did. But I guess maybe that's who he was. He was a curmudgeon. Jimmy Crum, the curmudgeon. But that was an experience I certainly will never forget.